Okay, we now join the live coverage of the APC Presidential Campaign Council press conference holding in Abuja on the conduct of the February 25th presidential and National Assembly elections in Nigeria. Let's take a look.
Honorably. This election has already been won by our candidate according to the results declared at the collation centers in the state. In 2015, President Jonathan did not wait for INEC to finish collation before he called President Buhari and congratulated him in the true spirit of democracy and sportsmanship. We urge Atiku Abubakar and Obi to follow the same path of honor instead of attempting to hit up the polity via the reckless statements by surrogates. Let Atiku and Obi do the needful, do the decent thing, and save Nigeria any agony by calling Tinubu now and conceding defeat. Thank you, gentlemen. Now I want to play you the tape. If your cameras can zoom in on this in my hand, so you see the visual clearly and the video of it. I'm increasing the volume. Here goes.
Back in 2007, it is said that you actually said that that election would be a do or die election. No. I said for my party. For your party. For my party.
Yeah, but they can see.
The PDP will win the election, not by but of course, you know that you know complaints about that election. Far from being fair. No, that election was fair. Oh yes. Look, there is no election we have had in Nigeria that has not been disputed. The election was disputed, all right. But the election reflected the will of the people of Nigeria. And my party had 28 governors. If you had to do it again, you think that 28 out of 36 governors where you have one of the contestants had probably 5 governors, one hadn't got any governor at all. Campaign work for their own party, and you think that my party will lose? You know, it has been actually said that it is true that Nigeria, at least on paper, is a multi-party system. Yes. But in reality, it is a one-party state. PDP controls almost everything. So what is wrong with that? What is wrong with that? If the people of Nigeria decide to vote for PDP, should PDP go to them and say, please, in a free and fair election? Yes. That is also verified by the international observers. Yes. But not the last election in 2006. In the last 18 months, I have observed the election in South Africa and in Togo. Yes. And if you have gone by what the so-called international, both elections will have been declared not acceptable. And this morning I have only commented on the election in Sudan. Well, now, 1 minute to go, sir. 1 minute to go, sir. Now, Shaka. Yes. What is important is that any election should reflect the will of the people. In this country, in America, it didn't have a public. In 2000, in Florida, it didn't happen. British told me that, in fact, in their own election, they got dead people voting.
It's okay. Gentlemen, you've heard and seen it all. If you like, I can. That is General Obasanjo telling us no election is perfect anywhere in the world, and that the US, the British, and others, they told him that they even had dead bodies' names on their ballots, and yet those elections were not cancelled. And this is the same man now moralizing and pontificating, huffing and puffing, that elections should be cancelled. You can see sheer selfishness there because his candidate is losing. Thank you, gentlemen.
Well, quickly, we also want to just quickly comment on the joint press conference held about an hour ago or 2 hours ago by the PDP, the Labour Party, and I think the ADC, if I'm right. We prepared this statement before that press conference, so we just the demand, especially the demand they made at that press conference. So I want to take just 2 minutes or 3 minutes to respond to those demands. The national chairman of all the parties, the three parties were there, and they have made 3 demands, 2 or 3 demands. And they have called for a total cancellation of the electoral process, of the whole election. 2, called for Mahmood, the chairman of INEC, to step aside and that they have no faith in him again to conduct any election, and any other person within the commission should take over. And they called for an intervention of President Muhammadu Buhari in the process. They're actually calling for the president to intervene, to interfere with the process, and do their bidding. Because of time, respond to those demands. First of all, those demands are not possible under the law. The national chairman of INEC, seated at the National Collation Center, is the national returning officer for that purpose. And if you look at the provisions of the Electoral Act, at every point of the collation process, the officer who makes that return at the unit level, the ward level, it is final for that purpose. I repeat, any officer at every level of the collation process, look at section 45 of the Electoral Act down to about 70 or so, which itemizes how those results are collated. So once a unit officer makes a return, for instance, under the old Electoral Act, when there's a complaint at a unit level, the unit officer, can take all his complaint to the ward level and then make his complaint. And then at a higher level, they will review what has happened and make a decision at the higher level, at the ward level or the local government level. But under the new Electoral Act, and I think my elder brother at the bar, Chief Olanikbeku, made that, point 1 month before the election that it is a dangerous provision of the law. That now the returning officer is final for that purpose. So just quickly, the unit officers who made the return and appended their signature on forms E8 is, so the ward officers, that's final, local government officers final, state returning officers final, the recs. And then when it comes to the National Collation Center, the national chairman has national returning officer, which national chairman, has no powers under the law to review what all those returning officers have done. All your complaints should have been resolved at that level. If the national chairman at the National Collation Center now attempts to say, now I want to review what happened in this ward or local government, he's constituting himself into a tribunal. Once a return has been made, it is only an election tribunal that can interfere with that return. And lastly, for the second one, is that the process, as it is now, must be completed in law before you can even look at any complaint. You cannot complain about a process, about election results that have not been released, have not been announced. So they want the national chairman to inquire into results that he has not received and declared. And that is not the provisions, that is completely at variance with the Electoral Act. So it's just to tell Nigerians, because of time, we are live on air, to tell Nigerians that these requests are not possible under the law. In fact, they are asking for illegal requests for their own purpose. And they are going to continue to search for an INEC chairman until they see one who can return them as president of Nigeria. That is what they are asking for, really.
Gentlemen, we have 1 minute for Femi, and then another minute for Kazim there, and then we'll go into questions. Yes, yeah.
Gentlemen, let me this, and have to recognize what is going on for what it is, so we shouldn't mince words. There are clear remedies for people that believe the election has not been conducted in the right way. And the remedy is to go to court after the announcement. What these people are trying to do is to abort the democratic process. What they're doing is close to being treasonous. And what they're doing is totally unacceptable by any standard at all. As far as I'm concerned, this was contrived. They knew they were going to lose. We spoke a few weeks back about the whole idea and conspiracy to come up with some kind of ING, which is really what they want, knowing they cannot defeat our party and our candidate. And we're seeing this, unfolding before our very eyes. So Nigerians need to understand it for what it is. When they gather together, like three blind mice, like they did today earlier, talking about aborting the process, aborting a democratic process, removing an INEC chairman because you're not winning, and then President Obasanjo, and it hurts me to have to say this, will come and add his voice to the whole idea of aborting a democratic process. These are not Democrats, these are tyrants. These are people that cannot accept the whole idea of losing an election. They're not man enough, they're not strong enough. If there's a problem, go to court afterwards. That's how civilized people behave. You don't gather yourself together and say, because my candidate is losing, because my party is losing, because we are losing everywhere, or we've lost, and we've seen our aspirations melting like an iceberg approaching the tropics, that will scatter everything and set Nigeria back. This election will be defended once the announcement has been made that our candidate has won. This is something that we said yesterday, we're saying it again now. They should not try to abort the process, otherwise there will be consequences in this country, because we will not allow another June 12th. By God's grace, this democracy will stand. And shame on them for what they're trying to do.
So thank you. Kazim.
Let me stand. Mine is just going to be a call.
No, let him talk from this.
Go on.
Mine is just a call on the security agencies. Atiku Abubakar's uncultured Rottweilers,
Yes.
who are trying to Dino Melaye and others should understand that it is not all the time that you display your agberoism, motor park mentality. This is Nigeria. Yes, preparations were made. Billions of naira were spent.
Absolutely.
If candidates of APC, PDP and others are losing in their strongholds, Lagos, Katsina, Kebbi and other places, how much do you want to see of a credible election where even governors, sitting governors, are losing election to go to Senate? If PDP were to be leading and to be winning, will they stage a walkout?
Exactly.
If they were to be leading and winning, will they pull out of this whole process? Would they be doing press conference? If Labour were to be winning, will they also pull out? I also want to advise Peter Obi not to hide under the cover of PDP. They will send him.
Yes.
He still have a better future. Yeah. He will send him because if they were reasonable and strategic, like Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they would have paired up together. Obi will have been the candidate, Atiku will have been the running mate. The whole process would have been different. But they wanted to go their separate ways. Like they wanted to see a positive outcome. Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu was and is the candidate of Nigeria and Nigerians in this election.
Yes, sir.
He's not an empty candidate. He lost in Osun, he lost in Lagos.
Yes.
This election on. And let's be reminded that nobody has monopoly of dastardism,
That's right.
rascality,
That's
and
right.
other. You know that when there's crisis in the marketplace, as elders, they will naturally look at what the problem is and rein in everybody. But behaving irresponsibly at his age and stature in Africa and West Africa, I am surprised and shocked that he will come out to utter those kind of very unfortunate words. So my appeal is to all APC followers who gave the mandates that will soon be announced to Ahmed Abdulsalam Bola Tinubu to remain calm and peaceful. When there is madness in the marketplace, there are those who will still recollect their senses and rein in everybody so that there will be peace and tranquility. This democracy must stand.
Yes.
It must not be truncated. Asiwaju Ahmed Tinubu was in the front line of those who labored in the trenches to best this democracy. He ran away on exile, fought over there, Radio Kudirat, Radio this, Nadeko that, to gain when all these characters were in bed with the military oligarchy. And so, if it is now his turn to preside over this country as a democratically elected president through popular votes, and some of these characters, desperados, want to truncate the process, we will meet them eyeball to eyeball.
Eyeball to eyeball. Eyeball to eyeball. That's okay.
Thank you.
Eyeball.
Thank you, Kazim. Men of the press, you've heard my colleagues, and you have heard, you have heard the submissions. Now, the kernel of our submission is that whoever is calling for the cancellation of this process, or the results or otherwise, is calling for the abortion of democracy in Nigeria. And Nigerians are not ready to abort this process. To those who are whipping up the youths, the ill-informed section of the youths, those who are whipping them up should remember that the youths who never went through the crucibles of democratic struggle, who have not seen wars, who do not know the tragedy of war, of insurrection, of destabilization on a national scale, should be well aware that Nigerians are not ready to go through that ruinous path again. Them who have ears, let them hear. Nigerians want the stability and political progress of this country through democracy, not through the jackboots of militarism. Never again. Those who are calling for the abortion, you can all see they are not true Democrats.
Jail them.
Only true Democrats deserve the joy of victory. If you do not or cannot absorb the shock of defeat, you do not deserve the joy of victory.
Absolutely.
And our candidate has honorably accepted defeat in his own base of Lagos. Let others, PDP, the LP, and any other, let them also imbibe the same spirit of true Democrats and sportsmanship. Thank you, gentlemen. Questions?
No, sorry, sir. Before questions,
Good afternoon. Yes. Good afternoon. Just very, very quickly, I want to adopt everything.
Please.
Good afternoon. I just want to adopt everything that my colleagues have said and piggyback on some of them. Listen, I want to appeal to the to those that have common sense out there. I do understand that, elections are a very emotional sort of process where you get very, very involved. So it's understandable that some people this part of the divide may that we understand that we're living in a democracy, and election is a game of numbers, and we have gone through a process. I don't think Nigerians have ever gone through a freer and fairer process. The president went out of his way to put in policies that even were affecting us freely, and this is what has happened. And at the end of the day, only one person is going to win. And if that person who wins is the one who Constitution, Section 134, then so be it. We know that today, if it wasn't Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu that was able to pass that threshold, we will accept it because we are Democrats. So I appeal to everyone out there to please think about Nigeria. This is a watershed moment. This is our future. Do not allow people, like my colleague said, that are trying to rile up emotions. This is about your future. Nigeria has spoken. We will allow this process to play out. Rally together because we must live in this country as one, as a united country, and this is what we are committed to doing, is what Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is committed to doing, and I thank you all for appealing to your conscience in this affair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's have questions. Let's have questions. Questions, please. Yes.
Question. Yes, sir. My name is Lucky Isawood. I work for Channels Television. You appear so confident of winning this.
We have won.
We've won. 1.5 million ahead. Right?
Yes, sir. While waiting for the official announcement, should there be a rerun? How prepared would you?
There won't be a rerun
before we
now.
announce.
Let me explain. Please let me explain to him. Wait, please let me explain to him. He has raised an issue, and there could be others like him who will wish to be enlightened. Now, why there can't be a rerun, there is a constitutional stipulation, guiding, please, there are regulations guiding this process. Now, for you to become elected or declare the winner, you must have a majority vote overall, nationally. Yes, and you must you must have the threshold of 25%, scoring 25% in at least 24 states, right? So, where there is a clear winner or a candidate that has crossed that threshold in minimum of 24 states and have the overall majority votes, there is no issue of rerun at all. Yeah. And that's the situation we have on our hands.
I've also seen some ignorant comments online saying that 24 states and Abuja. No, what it means is that you will calculate 2/3 of 37. So the 36 states and Abuja is a block, and then you now calculate 2/3 of that 37. That's what it means.
And the constitution is so clear.
Very, very clear.
Yes, please.
Very clear.
Next question, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Mr. Ochan. The PCC SARS.
Where do you explain?
I am from the Authority newspaper, sir. Citing the Obasanjo's interview in 2007 that we have just played.
Yeah.
Where he said there is no perfect election.
Yeah.
Are you therefore admitting that there are flaws in this election that must be taken on board?
Thank you. Thank you very much for that question. Again, for your enlightenment, and whoever thinks like that. This is a human conduct.
Exactly.
You yourself, that reporter, are you perfect? You are not. So therefore, any human conduct organization, even a nation, is not perfect. So Obasanjo was only saying the obvious. And we sat here, and he himself admitted to it. The beneficiary of his own election that he conducted in 2007, the late Umaru Yar'Adua, admitted openly, publicly, that the election that Obasanjo conducted, which brought him into the presidency, was flawed. And he went ahead to do what true Democrats would do, to institute a procedure for electoral reform. That's what is done in decent societies. When you see glitches or errors here,
Dr. Victor, you watched, you listened. What's your take on this, everything you just heard?
If I didn't see it coming, I'd be lying. But I'm also worried. Like a game of ping pong. It's going back and forth right now. I don't see an end in sight. And what bothers me the most is the fact that it's like if you're watching football, the two teams are evenly matched with their supporters. As you go back and forth, you score me, I score you, score me, I score you, the tension tends to rise and get, the way they're going, I hope they do not throw. They have now said, look, anyone calling for an abortion of this democracy is, So what is happening now is that what they are afraid of, I hope it doesn't come to pass. Because there's a level it will get to. If they don't act responsibly and maturely, in one breath I hear, we will this audio and in another breath, we're asking our supporters to be calm. I don't think I can say the two in one breath. Right. It's difficult because we're inflaming both sides. No one is exonerated. They're both inflaming their followers and at the same time trying to act responsibly or act like they're responsible.
Okay, Dr. Victor, we've just gotten the audio back, so let's listen in as Delia Alake takes more questions from the press.
Perfect here and there. Only God is perfect. But when you recognize or identify an error somewhere in the process, you fix it, you correct it, you do not abort the entire process and the aspirations.
What is always the issue in electoral jurisprudence is whether whatever you have noticed that took place, whether it is substantial enough to affect the general election. So if you have, for example, 176,000 polling units, if you observe anomalies in collectively 10 units, would that affect the result in 176,000 polling units? That's the question. It's about the substantial, whether it affects it substantially.
Yes, please. The lady.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amaka Ude Walker. I'm not going to, first of all, before I ask my questions, just a quick suggestion. We are live on TV, so if we can actually tone down the language, that would be appreciated, because there are young people who are watching.
No. You can't tell us how to answer. You can't tell us. No.
Sorry, gentlemen, please leave her. Please. Let us hear her out. Please, wait. Please, leave her.
Very rude.
We are not supposed to degenerate.
Imagine that.
Please. Please, for God's sake, for crying out loud, let us hear her out. Please, one house. Please, let us hear her out. She has a fundamental right to air her views, however obnoxious those views are. So she has a right to air the view, and we reserve the right to respond. She has raised an issue that we should tone down our rhetorics, right?
Not the rhetoric,
the language.
I didn't say so.
Meanwhile, thank you. You have made the point, right?
The situation
you have made your point, okay? So you will ask your question. Now, I will respond to the issue you raised about lowering our language, okay? Now, you carried live the press conference of PDP and LP just now.
Yes.
You carried live Dino Melaye shouting, huffing and puffing and employing gutter snipe on air on your station. Now, before then, your station has carried live more obnoxious and pugnacious statements, right? So therefore, your point, you have made your point. We have listened to you. We have responded. Ask your question.
So what I was trying to say in essence is, did you know that the situation in the country is tense at the moment?
It's not tense.
Please ask your question. Let her ask her question. No, let her ask the question. Please, just leave her. Please get to it quickly.
So coming from the PDP, what they are saying, they're not holding sway for Obasanjo or any other person who is saying...
We never said they were.
No, this is my question.
Okay.
I have the right, like you have said. They're saying irretrievably compromised. That's how they're targeting the election. So are you saying INEC should continue with the process as it is right now, despite the fact that just this morning, the REC in Rivers State refused to even announce the result because of threats to his life, showing that things are not perfect. So what I'm asking you in essence is, are you saying we should continue, even though we do know that, everywhere across the country...
Please, Peter, relax. Thank you very much. Have you finished?
Yes.
Now, please. No. We don't want to huddle everything together so that there will be clarity. Gentlemen and ladies, this is the APC Presidential Campaign Council. We have our values. And I just said that we are committed Democrats. And in the spirit of democracy, whoever has any views, however contradictory, or loquacious, we must entertain. That is the spirit of democracy. We only reserve the right to respond. So, my dear sister, to your question, now, we are saying that you cannot abort a baby when the pregnancy is in full term. It has reached full term. Now, Festus, just said something to you. These are lawyers surrounding us. And they've pointed out that in a process like this, in an election covering over 176,000 polling units, you cannot have every unit in perfection. And I did say that there is no human conduct, least of all your organization, that is perfect. Right? I know a little bit of journalism practice. I just don't know a little bit of it. I'm trained in journalism and I've practiced it all my life. And I can also say categorically that your small organization breaches the code of ethics of journalism on a daily basis. Does that mean that we should close it down?
Very well spoken.
That is the principle of what we are saying. That you have one or two glitches in a process covering 176,000 or more polling units does not amount to aborting the entire process and aspirations of over 200 million Nigerians. That's what we are saying. Move on to the next question.
My name is John Chuk from I have two simple questions to ask.
Go ahead.
One, are you worried or are you not worried that even the INEC has not responded to some allegations that have been raised? All this while, that's my first question.
No, there's a provision for that. No, there's a provision for that.
The second question I would like to ask, how do you feel over there? The table turns around the other way. What you say and tell Nigerians today is also what you want to say and believe. That's how it should be.
Let me answer the first one. The last one. Okay. Festus will take the first one. Now, your question is, what will we say if the table turns round tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Again, I assume that you were with us from the beginning of this press conference.
Sure.
And we did say categorically that our candidate, being a committed Democrat, not just in theory, but in practice, and has been exemplified by his track record in the democratic struggle, in instilling or making sure that this democracy we practice is alive and kicking. Much more than any other candidate in the horizon today. Because of all of this, he is going to accept defeat in good conscience, honorably. And he has done it in Lagos a few days ago. How many times are we going to repeat that? It's so simple. He has demonstrated it. And he did say, and I've repeated it, if you are not prepared to absorb the shock of defeat, you have no moral right to enjoy the fruits of victory.
Exactly.
That says it all.
Now, on that issue, this process we are going through is not a process of sentiment and emotion. It's law. Yeah. This is an institution guided by law. So that is why I intervene at every point in time when you ask such questions that relate to the process under the Electoral Act. So whatever your sentiment or emotions is irrelevant here. Now, let me explain to you, maybe you don't understand what I said earlier. The national chairman seated there as a national returning officer has two roles: to receive the results from the resident electoral commissioners of the state. That is just a simple role given to him. And when he receives, he announces the results. You cannot attend to complaints about results that have not been handed to you and you have not announced. Now, all the complaints received will now be attended to before he now makes the final declaration. There are two processes involved here. People think that announcing results means that you have announced a winner finally. No. When you now go through the 36 results and Abuja, right, you will now say, now, what are the complaints we have received so far? That is the point at which the national returning officer looks at all the complaints and says, okay, this complaint, does it affect this declaration I'm about to make? If there's a complaint that is substantial enough at that point to affect the declaration, that is when he holds back to make the final declaration. Do you understand? He holds back and says, well, I have received the results, I've announced them, but well, there's a serious complaint here that should taint this final declaration I want to make. But you cannot stop him at this point. Like my brother said, it's like aborting a pregnancy that has reached full term. He has to announce, he has to receive those results. He has to announce those results. And then at the point of making the final return, the final declaration, of course, he now says, well, this complaint, okay, it's good enough. This one is not good. I have not seen anything in this complaint to affect this. And so I now make the final declaration of president-elect. That is the procedure. So what the route they are taking is a route that is strange to law, strange to the process, strange to everything known under the Electoral Act. It is an illegal route they are taking. And it's just an illegal route to power that they want to take. And the last point I want to make is that they should understand that the different parts of this country and people who voted for different candidates, they have a right to get for their voices to be heard. Yeah. You want resounding in the areas where you come from. Let's be honest about this. You mean those places where we won resoundingly, you expected to come and win there? Did you expect to come and win there? Are you one kind of terrestrial human being that what nonsense?
Oh yeah. So, shall we? Is that all? Thank you very much, gentlemen of the press. We shall call you again if they continue their shenanigans, because we will react
for victory.
Thank you
react
very
every
much.
time. That was a good one.
That was a very intense Q&A
very
session.
Contentious
Yes.
as well. Doctor, what do you make of what we just heard? And again, just a shout out to our very own Amaka
Walker.
Walker there, who asked a very pertinent question, and to the representatives there in terms of toning down the language because of the polity, and also asking exact pertinent questions. So well done, Amaka. Doctor, what was your thoughts on what we just heard?
Passions are getting inflamed.
Very much so.
Remember what I said before we went for the conference? It's like a Man U, Man City, or Chelsea, Arsenal game. it doesn't matter what happens on the field. The what you call it now, the fans are getting worked up, especially when you have two equally matched opponents. And what you just saw there now is a sign of coming attractions, as we say in the movies.
Yeah.
In that hall, passions are getting inflamed, and I'm wondering what's happening outside.
Right.
I think that in the spirit of the what you call it now,
Peace.
the peace accord that they all signed, the leaders, they should call their followers, to order. We need to do this for Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's so important.
Yeah.
These conferences, in a way, are totally unnecessary and uncalled for. There are probably things that should have happened after all is said and done.
Yeah.
But with what has just happened there, the last has not been heard.
The last has not been
heard. Exactly.
Yeah, I think I will wrap it up on that note.
Wow.
Dr. Victor Okhai, it's been an absolute pleasure having you in the studio. Thank you for your views and your insights. And this is where we wrap it up on this particular segment of the Arise continuous coverage of the 2023 presidential and National Assembly elections. We'll take a very short break now, but when we come back, Hawa Mukan, Aaron Akerejola, and Temitope Fabemi will take over the anchor duties from Simon Vimbai Mutiniri Epeyong.
I'm Ruti Sodiri. Thank you for staying with us.
And I'm Cynthia. Have a good day.